offer you a challenge. So I'd like you to get out a pen and I want you to write down 2 names. The first name I'd like you to write down is someone you'd like to connect with more. Maybe it's a sibling or a parent or a coworker. The second name is someone you actively avoid or you need to have a crucial conversation with, or they're not your favorite person, but you need to still interact with them in order to get results. And I want you to write their name down. And my challenge is that before you leave here today, before you go to lunch, before you leave this room to go to lunch, I want you to think about when in the next week could I interact with both of these people and be more curious and be more present? Maybe you want to ask them a different question. Maybe you want to be more intentional in your listening. And I have 3 tips for you for when you do this. The first is I want you to identify your crucial moment for when you get out of the moment. Perhaps it is a reaction to something they say, you get triggered. Perhaps it's like me where it's on your way there, you get stuck in traffic and you're late. Or you open before you go to open their office door, you check an email and your mind goes spinning. And what happens is I get home later that night and I'm like, oh, I forgot I was supposed to be present. Oh, I forgot. And you miss the opportunity completely. And in that crucial moment, one thing I've been doing is I've been thinking about a quote from someone named Eckhart Tolle. Has anyone heard of him? Yeah, he wrote The Power of Now and a New Earth. And I recommend if you're interested in this topic, read those books. He's great. And his quote is, to love is to recognize yourself in another. Isn't that magnificent? To recognize yourself in another. And I find that is a great little grounding statement, whether I'm going to go meet with somebody I like or somebody I don't like. How can I recognize myself in that other person? The second tip is another crucial moment that I have is that when an opportunity for connection comes my way, I have some form of this statement in my head. It's some form of, I don't have time for this. And it's either, I'm sorry, I don't have time for this, or I don't have time for this. It's some form of that. And what I've been trying to do is reverse that statement to, I have time for this. I don't have time to not have time for this. And the irony is that often that which we're resisting, that what we're saying I don't have time for, is what we most need and want and desire. And an example I relate to is, I don't have time to connect with you. I'm too busy being lonely. The third tip I'd like to offer is something from an art class that came up. Many art classes in college campuses, they have an assignment, and that is, look at a painting and just stare at it for several hours. Just look at that painting. Pick one painting and stare at it for several hours, and then see what you notice. And what students typically report is that new beauty and nuance emerges, and they have a greater appreciation for that painting. What if you applied that same assignment to these 2 people and to your relationships? What if you just really looked at your spouse without all the mental noise and the judgment? What if you looked at that bully at work? Would new beauty and nuance emerge? Now, how does all this connect to training and connect to the workplace? Well, one of our colleagues, Steve Willis, tested this about being present in the classroom. And he did a really interesting study. What he did is he got to several classes in a row where he got to class early, and while participants were coming in, he was busy getting his flip charts ready, he was checking the wires on the projector, and when the time came to start class, he started class, having not greeted anybody that came in. Then he measured how many times did people raise their hand when he asked questions. Then he did a series of classes, and what he did is he had everything ready half an hour before the class started. And as the participants came in the door, he shook their hand, he looked them in the eye, he greeted them, he asked them their name, and he connected with them. And then he measured how much participation did he have when he asked questions. And what he found was that when he was present to people, there was significantly more participation. That being present can make a difference even in the classroom. We teach through our presence. We teach by being. Now, I can't take credit for that last phrase. That was also from Eckhart Tolle. And he defines being present as seeing and hearing without thought, seeing and hearing without judgment. Now, when I first heard that, I thought, he's telling us how to be a zombie. Like, that sounds like, I have no thoughts, let's connect. He's not saying that at all. Or he's not saying be a doormat either. He's saying you can still hold that person accountable. You can still have a tough conversation, but do it without all the mental noise. Do it without all the story. Do it without all the judgment. Living in this life fully requires connection. I mean, we can be curious and present, two very ordinary things. Our interactions can be extraordinary. As I mentioned, these are somewhat common sense, but they are not common. And so using them gives you an edge. And so my hope is that you find value in the ordinary, that you teach through your presence, that you have more transformations than transactions, and that you make this one precious life, this one precious moment extraordinary. Thank you.